Special shout out to all our patrons who support the show every week. Head on over to patreon.com/runeatdrinkpodcast and subscribe today for bonus content, special shout outs on social media, and so much more. Patrons, you help keep the Run, Eat, Drink podcast going, and we couldn't do it without you. Not a patron yet? Join us today at patreon.com/runeatdrinkpodcast.
You can also support the show by using our brand new Amazon affiliate link anytime you shop on Amazon.com for things like running gear, food, beverages, or anything else the little gray trucks might bring your way. Just go to runeatdrink.net/Amazon anytime you shop. It costs nothing extra, and it helps us keep the lights on and the bandwidth flowing. Go to runeatdrink.net/Amazon, and we thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Adrianne Haslet, and you are listening to the Run, Eat, Drink podcast.
Welcome to the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We feature destination races from across the country. And after the race, we take you on a tour of the best local food and beverage to celebrate. So whether you are an elite runner or a back of the packer like us, you'll know the best places to accomplish, explore, and indulge on your next runcation. Hey, welcome to episode 221 of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. I'm your host, Amy.
And I'm your co-host, Dana.
Yay! I'm excited for this episode. I hope this episode finds you all running well in the heat of summer.
Oh, boy, you said it. We had a heck of a long run this weekend in some of that summer heat, getting to experience it firsthand. Fortunately, as we are conducting our field research for our summer series on hydration options,
yes,
we were able to stay very well hydrated thanks to our friends over at SOS.
Yeah. That was... I'm just having severe flashbacks to not the first part of our run.
The pre-sunup part.
Because the pre-sunup part was...
muggy.
But not the sun beating down on you. You know what I mean, right?
I know exactly what you mean. There's a segment.
Come on, you were with me.
I recorded some segments, video segments, and
Yeah.
I was showing, like, we started out, of course, pre-sunup.
I took screenshots of the weather.
Oh, did you?
The weather app, yes.
Oh, that's okay. This is going to be great when we publish the video then, because you got the screenshots of the weather, and I made a point of illustrating what little shade we get, because the types of trees that we have in our neighborhood are basically palm trees. And
there's no shade in that.
Once the sun gets above houses, like you get the shadow of houses when the sun's very low. And then after that, you get like maybe 3 feet or 5 feet of shade at a time along the street. And by the time we finished our 11 miler, that sun had come up and we lost what little shade we got.
Yes.
But
we made it though.
We were at least well hydrated and we did survive it. We're now this would be as we record, we're day 1 after the
long run.
Mm-hmm. Day 2 is usually where that delayed onset muscle soreness happens. So tomorrow ought to be
so excited
extra special
for it. So excited.
And I know everybody out there knows what we're talking about. When you get that the first day after a big workout or everything, you're a little sore. It's that second one. That remaining lactic acid and your body's trying to repair and rebuild. Although we were both very good about getting some protein in us right after the run. So that's always a good practice. True. And there may have been a post-race or a post-run recovery beer.
Right.
And I think that we got a photo of you smiling with that beer.
I made it. I look miserable.
Well earned, though. Well earned.
Give me the AC.
So that was our weekend. And we fortunately are heading into this week. It's going to be a training throughout the week.
Of course.
With a shorter long run on the weekend.
Yes, or some speed work. We have options.
Oh, in lieu of the shorter long run.
Mm-hmm.
she's got the plan. I'm just following what she tells me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got a lot to look forward to. But
yeah, we do.
Like you said, we're also looking forward to this week's episode.
Maybe more so than running in the heat of August in Florida.
Yes. Although this week's episode, if you've got a hot long run coming up, this is going to be the episode for you because this is part 2.
Yes.
Of our interview.
I love it.
With Boston running luminary, running royalty.
Champion of the BAA 10K.
Yes.
On her birthday, Adrianne Haslet.
Yes. So we've got the second part of that interview today. Some more discussion of fantastic food and beverage options for our Runcation Nation who may be heading to one of these Boston races that we are talking about.
Yeah. She won her division. It was just, great stuff. And it's this part of the interview makes me just so excited. I'll talk a little bit more about it when we lead into the actual interview itself.
Right. But first, we have some shout outs, as I recall.
We do. You know, this weekend we were out in the heat of Florida while our friend of the show, Marko Cheseto, was in Alaska giving the keynote speech, the motivational speech on Saturday, given a shakeout run on Saturday in Anchorage, Alaska at the Anchorage RunFest. But that's not all he did. He motivated people throughout those events. And then he ran the Anchorage RunFest Skinny Raven half marathon and finished in a time of 1:22:27.
That's 1 hour, 22 minutes, 27 seconds for a half marathon. That is absolutely incredible.
And he got some really great pictures from Anchorage around while he was post-race before he went home.
I saw that. And then I also saw his Medal Monday photo that he posted today. And I'm like, I'm so, talk about FOMO.
I know.
A little bit of FOMO.
Know.
Wishing we could have been there this year for that one. That is
totally
absolutely one of our favorites that we've ever covered on the show. I can't wait for us to get back there at some point in the not too distant future.
So congratulations, Marko.
Yes. But that's not all. We also want to say thank you to everybody who is still doing miles for our friend of the show, Main Street Miles Meg. That's her handle on Instagram. She is focused on recovery post-surgery, and she's even doing 20-minute chair workouts now. So she's on the fast track to recovery. Before too long, she'll be back out there pounding out the miles on the pavement. But
she's doing it. It's so hard when you're recovering and you see everybody doing their, we have so many friends who are training for fall and winter races like Dopey, like Wine and Dine, like Chicago Marathon, like the Marine Corps Marathon, all of Bird in Hand.
Bird in Hand.
And to see all of that on social media is so hard. So Meg, you are focused. You have your eye on the prize. You are doing a great job. Applause to you, because we know how tough that is mentally.
And keep doing what the doctor says. And that does mean some self-restraint. And we get that, but keep that up. So great job there. And then we've got one more shout out.
One more. A person who is still posting miles for Meg. That would be JoJo, Positively Polly 1 on Instagram. A special congratulations to her because she is now a fellow podcaster. And she started her show, This Podcast Called Life, which is available everywhere. And we link to it here in the show notes.
Fantastic. Not only a podcast producer, as she is a patron at the associate producer level, but she's now producing one of her very own. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Give that a listen, everybody, and check out the link in the show notes below. If you know anyone who would be in need of some extra motivation or recognition or support, and you would like to get them shouted out on the show, don't forget to send that shout out to us. We do our best to collect shout outs throughout the week, but send them our way. You can, of course, email us at
info@runeatdrink.net. That's info@runeatdrink.net. Or you can call us and leave a message at 941-677-2733.
That's 941-677-2733.
Let's talk running.
Indeed.
It's race day.
I was going to say, the way you edited this into two parts was great because you really built up the anticipation for this part of the interview, I think. And this is the one where we talk about Boston.
Well,
itself.
she did a great job doing that, just telling the stories herself. Adrianne Haslet ran the Boston Marathon back in April 2022 with Shalane Flanagan. And I will never forget the year that Shalane Flanagan won the New York City Marathon and came down the straightaway, and she's there, and she can't contain herself anymore. And she's like, F yeah, and you can see it. And ever since she has become a coach and been so motivational and inspirational to athletes and to Adrianne in particular.
Oh, yeah. And her talking about the way that she was coaching her along the course, I think was just fantastic. And you guys are going to get to hear that coming up in just a second. We're about to hit play on that for you all. I think that this is one of my favorite interviews because this is just so meaningful, seeing what Adrianne was able to do and getting to not only being able to do it, but getting to do it with someone like Shalane. Oh. In a place and at a race that is so special. It's so impactful. And I really hope that comes across to everybody in the interview.
So now, without further ado, here's Adrianne Haslet, and she gets to talk about her race day with Shalane Flanagan at the Boston Marathon in April 2022. Speaking of at the start, what were Shalane's words of wisdom to you? What was going through your mind there?
Yeah, I was so nervous when I woke up that morning. I was more nervous than I thought I would be. Obviously, I have a big day ahead of me. So you'd think, obviously, Adrianne, you'd be nervous, right? That's obvious. But I was so nervous. And she met me downstairs in the lobby, and I shut the door to my room, and I left Fred in there because he was going to get picked up by a friend a couple hours later. And I left my fuel and my sunglasses and my bag and everything. I just walked out the door and shut it and then left my key in there. So then I went down to the lobby and I was so nervous. And she's like, "Hey, we're just going to go for a long run today. You're cool. Just go grab your gel. We'll go for our long run." Like, she was just chill.
Low key.
She knew, she'd been there before where has a big day ahead of her. She knows about she probably wasn't as frantic as I was, but she knew what it was like to face a big goal and to be nervous. And we had Courtney White there shooting some footage for our sponsors, and who's an incredible photographer and an amazing human. And so I went back upstairs and got let in with the key and got my stuff, and we were on our way and sat down on the bus. And I said, "Shalane, I'm not as nervous as I thought I'd be." She goes, "Good." She was like, "So what else have you been up to?" And we just talked about like these houses that were passing by, and we talked about other runners, and we talked about moments on the course on the bus ride. And then we pulled in, and she said, "It's going to be crazy in the church," because we were in the elites go to a different church. And then we went to the para athletes, which includes all the chairs and push rim and para athletes and visually impaired and blind runners in this other church. And she said that the bathrooms are going to be crazy. So we're going to use the porta potties. So we raced over to the porta potties and then went in. And even though the bathrooms are nice,
so you have to consider that.
Yep. And you don't want to be around the nervous energy. So we were just like head down, even though we were in matching, of course, we're in matching like Nike gear, Bowerman gear. And so we couldn't hide very well, but we went to the porta potties, and then she really directed me from that moment. She was directing me the whole time, but she was really supporting me and guiding me from that moment we got off the bus to, okay, we found this back room at the church with no one else in it besides Alexi Papas and the person she was guiding. And then 2 other people, my friend Kyle and his guide, Tina Muir, and we just all huddled in there, and they're all elite runners guiding us. And it just happened that we found this side room, and one of the Boston Athletic Association volunteers stood at the doorway because everyone kept trying to take selfies with us. And even though we certainly love fans, it was right before the race. So like we had to be
time and place.
Yeah. She found a yoga mat, and she said, lay down and put your headphones in. And I did. And she stretched me and stretched my legs and massaged my legs and my back. And I listened to some pretty hardcore gangster rap because that's what I do when I'm pumping up for a race. And she just said, we're just going to go for a long run. Here's some lotion and here's some fuel. We'll start out with this. And she wasn't reminding me like start out slow or any of that. She was just like making small talk and asking her to fix my braids and just like all sorts of like just small talk stuff, taking photos. And then I'm shooting. It always sounds crazy to say out loud because I can finally say it out loud now. I'm shooting an IMAX movie.
I love this.
Which is crazy. And so speaking of protecting your energy, I had told my director, Daniel Ferguson, that he has no access to me the month before the race, but we had planned months before that we would shoot he had 10 of my minutes that morning. And so he came in and he's like sheepishly looking at me and he's like 10 minutes starting now. And I was like, okay, 10 minutes. So we shot really quick. And then he was like, you're done. And then I went back with Shalane and stretched, and then it was go time.
Call you?
Yeah. And she said, hey, I'm going to bring a bottle of water. I want you to swish and spit. You won't be thirsty. You're hydrated enough, but your brain will tell you you're thirsty because you're nervous. So don't take too much because you'll have to pee, but swish and spit. So we did. And then we almost didn't make it to the start because we peed one more time. We were told we had 20 minutes. We peed one more time and got out, and they were already lined up, and we like bolted to the start. And she looked at me and she said, well, we did our warm up, and then it was go time.
It was probably for the best because then you don't think about it.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, we got to go. Let's go. It's time. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. It was great.
And I think that's another good takeaway for the Runcation Nation. When you're at a big race day and you've got the corrals and you've got the nervous energy, like you've talked about, there's that part of your brain that's going to tell you have to nervous pee.
Yeah.
All the time.
That's a thing.
All the time.
And the nervous drinking, which is going to force you to have to really pee.
On the course.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Swish and spit. We had an extra water bottle and she just carried it and she said, here you go, swish and spit. And I kept doing it. And that was something to do to get that nervous energy out that made me feel like I was actively doing something instead of, I don't know, taking an extra gel just because I'm nervous or looking nervous and showing your competitors that you're nervous, which you don't want to do. So there was all of that. It really helped. I think that's all of these little things that I remember thinking, swish and spit. Yeah, I'm a pro. Like I'm getting this advice. Like
good.
But they do. I'm just like a pro.
Positive mindset.
Really and then I stood at the start line and I looked down, and that was a moment. I'm going to cry. That was a moment that like I had been looking forward to for a really long time, that I would line up at the Boston Marathon in a competitive way. And I knew how many amputees' parents and family members. And there are 2.2 million people living with limb loss. And you know this, Dana, because you have a good friend, best friend living with limb loss and limb difference in this country. And it's a big deal. We're not a minority or we're not a small minority. And so I knew how many people were watching. And I looked down at that start line, that famed start line, and I saw so many different feet lining up, towing the line, so many different toes. And I was just like, we freaking did it.
Yeah.
And then the gun went off.
And
I was so taken. And I was just like, I really hope someone has a picture of all these feet. And so I got to find out if someone does, if anyone's listening who has a picture of all those different feet.
That would be an awesome photo.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
what a
is.
memory in a moment.
And like you said, it's
like tearing up.
It's almost 1% of the total population of the country. That's no small thing.
A lot. It's no small thing. Yep. Absolutely. And I know this from experience. A lot of people hide it, whether it's so you could have a coworker or someone that has limb difference and you just don't know because they're in long pants or shoes or something. So you never know. Yeah. So it's a big deal.
Now, I've heard you talk about some of the miles on the course once you cross that start line and you headed out being a bit of a blur, and
in the zone.
Some things are also unforgettable, and you've had some time now to process the whole experience. Can you talk about some of those unforgettable memories or stories that you have from along the course?
Yeah, gosh, I think one of the first memories is one of the unbelievable memories. Obviously, you can tell by the way I'm talking, and I've already said it, that I'm such a huge fan of Shalane. And I think it's so important and so fun when you're a fan of your friends, right? Yeah. Whether your friend is a runner or not, like to be a fan of your friends and be like that's awesome. Congratulations to you. We should be cheerleading our friends a lot. And one of the memories was you head out and we have our own start as a paradivision. And you're told at the beginning in the church, hey, wave 1 will eventually come and pass you, because these runners, as everyone knows, are like 5-something minute milers, right? Like they're cruising and they are absolutely going for broke. Like they don't defer in where they are on the road. Every step is choreographed. And so they will barrel through, not in a bad way, but they're going to come through, and you got to pick a side. So you pick right side or left side of the road, they recommend. And then you just stay there and you just try and stay steady on the road. And anyone who's run Boston or knows Boston, the beginning of the course is very, very narrow. And starting at mile 2, there are hydration stations, water stations on each side of the road until 26.2 or until 25. So we were running and cruising, and I'm like, Shalane, we're running Boston together. And she's, I know, save your breath. And I'm freaking out, and she's making sure I stay calm. But I was like, I'm running with you. This is amazing. And I'm trying to stay calm and feeling really good. And then she and I were passed by 2 bicycles from the BAA, and they're called sweepers. And they come through and say, and this has happened to me in the past, that they say, pick a side, you got to pick it now, and you got to stay there because wave 1 is coming in hot. And we picked the right side. We were already near the right side. And she said, okay, like you go right, I'll be right next to you. And we could hear them come, and they're not talking. They're not wasting breath on talking. You just hear their feet. And she said, oh my God, that sound. And I was like, they're coming. And you just hear the sound of, and I think a lot of the time when you're in the race, especially if you are not elite fast, you're hearing people talking and you're hearing the crowd, but it's not often that there is no crowd because the woods being right there, and just the sound of tens of thousands of feet, or at least 1,000 feet, just crushing the Boston Marathon. And they come through and you hear, 246, let's go 246. Cause I had Haslet on my front, but 246 on the back, and 246, let's go Shalane. And like, they were, I don't want to say wasting their breath, but they were talking and cheering us on, even though anyone knows that they would never normally talk. So the fact that they were cheering us on and giving us space, and of course Shalane knew like 50 people. And she's like, Adrianne, look. And she gets out her phone, which she'd never run with a phone before, like in a race. And she gets out her phone from her sports bra and she's filming, and she's like a fan. And I think that was a big memory for me, was to see her be a fan of these runners and this race. And that she never gets to see that part of it. And so it was just awesome to see her like filming and like fumbling with her phone and in the best way of, this is so awesome. This sound, Adrianne, this sound is amazing. That was a big deal. And then the first people I was going to see was the family of one of the head of counterterrorism. Speaking of counterterrorism, and you may know him in New England, it's Tim Brown, who worked evidence in the case of the Boston Marathon bombings. And he and I became very tight when I worked in the trial, and his wife and kids. And of course he was busy working what he needed to do to keep the race safe, but his wife and kids were there. And so Shalane and I were keeping our eyes open for them. And I just had so many moments where I would see someone that was so instrumental in my healing. I've been through a lot, and the trial, and, my PTs who've put this body back together more than a few times, my Superman surgeon, my doctors, my multiple surgeons, my so many people. And then we got to the crowds, and all of a sudden it was just like a Rocky movie. I just heard, yo, Adrianne, yo, Adrianne, yo, Adrianne, like, yo, Adrianne, yo, Adrianne, yo, Adrianne. And then if they were really Boston, I heard, yo, Adriana, let's go, Adriana. It was hilarious. It was Adriana and Shalene. It was like true Boston, like really deep Boston accents. And
That's
then it
so
was
great.
and Shalene when it was like not Boston accents. It was amazing. And I stopped turning my head at a certain point because it was just constant. It was amazing. And the signs, and it was just unbelievably overwhelming all the way through. And, I think hitting Heartbreak Hill, I knew what was coming, obviously, not only the hill, but also I knew the IMAX cameras, they were along the course. There was a helicopter, there were people stationed everywhere. I knew all of that was happening, but I also knew that I had a lead vehicle at Heartbreak Hill. So they brought a golf cart out onto the course. They were waiting for me. They had spotters everywhere. I was wearing an Apple tag to make sure that they could see where I was instead of just the tracker, which chafed like crazy. I never let my director, let that director live that down. Lovingly. But the golf cart pulled out, and I was like, they're like, we really want to capture the moment and how bad the hills feel. And I was like, Adrianne, you need to run. Just keep running. And I was suffering so badly. So I haven't seen that footage, but I'm sure it's epically crazy. But I remember.
And in IMAX.
Oh, yeah.
In IMAX, he was like, we're going to do it 7 times slower. And as I'm running, I'm like, this is 7 times slower than normal. So like my face just like drooping and, trying to take a gel, and Shalene trying to feed me the gel. Like it's going to be. But at that moment up that hill, I saw Jillian Remy who's also in the Boston Strong survivor community. And they have a foundation called Stepping Strong, and they've helped countless people and have a running charity in the Boston Marathon. And I didn't know where they would be. I just hadn't thought about, I knew they would be there, but I hadn't thought about where it was or where I was at that point. It was a little foggy. And I somehow looked up and locked eyes with her, and then just lost it. And I wasn't going to stop and hug anyone because I was running. And then I just collapsed on her. And we had a really big moment that was incredibly emotional and gave me a lot of strength to keep going. And there are so many moments with Shalene, like, Adrianne, right here was where Des told me that she may drop out of the race in 2018. And then she won the thing. So you never know what's happening ahead of you. Like you could still win this. And when we were at the halfway point, she said, Adrianne, you're doing at least a half an hour better than I thought you would. Like you're going to crush this. And she just was really, she gives a lot of compliments, but she doesn't blow smoke up your butt. So to get a compliment like that you're crushing it is just felt really good. And we had a system where she would give gels and water to me. So she would put me on the opposite side of the road and then run over, grab water from the water station, and then come back over. And she's not used to having to grab water at a water station. And anyone who knows water at a water station, especially in Boston, like the footing with all those cups and everything is just crazy. So she would go over and then she'd come back. She'd just scream, Adrianne, like, where are you? And we'd find each other again. And it was just so many memories of that.
Boston Strong Bridge had to be incredible.
Mm-hmm. I slowed way down. I was walking quite a bit at that point, I was just speed. But then when I saw the Boston Strong Bridge, I could have run harder, but I just didn't want to. I just wanted it to keep going. I wanted it to last. And poor Shalene had already been out there longer than she ever had from marathon times 2. And she didn't mind at all.
I'm sure it didn't feel like it though.
She was like, come on, you got this. And I could have run faster at that point, but I was just so emotional. And I saw one of my very dear friends, Cindy Brenner, who I love deeply, and I'm sure she's listening, and we just locked eyes, and it was like just the two of us out there. And I just remember thinking we were collapsed on the couch together in COVID, and we were neighbors. And so we saw each other a lot. And to think of going from that to being out at Boston and competing was just almost too much underneath that Boston Strong Bridge. And that's where I did my very first solo Nike shoot, was underneath that bridge. My very first run after being hit by a car in 2019, I ran underneath that bridge for my very first run in the cameras of Nike, and remember feeling that and how I needed help even putting on my running leg that morning. And now I was running underneath that with Shalene. It was unbelievable. And just
amazing.
Passing by that all the time on training runs and thinking like, won't it be cool to just run under this someday in the marathon and feel like I'm doing okay. And
more than okay. You're like, I got it. I don't want it to
kind of
end.
low, I did it. And now seeing that bridge is just equally just as emotional, because now I have these new memories along that course. And I wrote a piece for the Boston Marathon record book in 2016. And I started it by saying, there are 30,000 reasons people run the Boston Marathon, and probably arguably 30,000 reasons why people finish, because when you're out there, it changes as you go on. And just thinking about how many different feet have been along that course and the terror that has happened there. And then right after the Boston Strong Bridge, I ran through that sidewalk, or through that crosswalk where I was hit in 2019. So Shalane said, Adrianne, it's coming up, run through it strong. And that was the turn. That crosswalk was the turn of Hereford onto Hereford from Boylston, or from Commonwealth. And I just remember thinking, this is it. Like, I was on the sidewalk about to lose my arm and about to never move again for 3 months. And I ran through it. And then we were on the home stretch, and then I turned onto Boylston and passed the place where I lost my leg. And it was just almost too much. She's like, we're going to run all the way down Boylston. And I was like, okay. And then knowing full well that I would stop again. And it was just, the noise was deafening. And then I just was so overcome. And I remember hearing Tom Grilk, who's the head of the BAA, on the mic saying my name and a bit about my story. And as I came down, and the blue arch thing that is over the finish line, I thought that that's where the finish line was. So I was like looking up for my finish line photo, and I was going for the blue arch, and Shalane was like, Adrianne, you did it. Stop. And I had already crossed. She was like, you're done. And she was like, look, and she pointed up, and my name was up above the finish line. And I just was like, I can't believe it. She said, you did it. And I said, we did it. And then I said a big F yeah, because you have to when you're next to Shalane, because that's how she finished in her New York City marathon. And
oh my God, that was so awesome.
It was so awesome. I know. And then I just lost it. I looked at her and I said, I effing did it. I think I screamed broken eardrum of hers, but it was just amazing. It was so incredible and so emotional. And I just couldn't believe that I somehow got the weather I wanted exactly. I got the person by my side who was the reason I wanted to get into distance running, and the reason I fought so hard for this new division to make a difference for all amputees. And it was just a perfect day. And I found out that I was 15 minutes away from third place. I came in fourth, and I definitely could have had third, but I was having too much fun to have third. So I'm really okay with that. And
like a PR in fun.
We won in fun. Nobody else had more fun than we did. I'm not trying to take away anyone else's fun. I'm just saying we won in fun.
Yeah.
It was the most amazing day. And then I saw my service dog Fred Astaire and the IMAX cameras, and just collapsed on the sidewalk with him. And it was, I was his salt lick.
That is so true about dogs. They do after that, after a run, after a race, that they love that. It's so great that you all shared that moment together at the finish.
It was
that you got
so
to share
emotional. And she was handing out waters in marathons at the Boston Marathon growing up, and was so instrumental in that race in 2014 and that comeback. And so she had so many emotions surrounding the bombing as well, and to be there with her. And it was just amazing. I would relive this a million times over a day. So
you're doing it again, huh?
I think so. I'm not announcing anything yet, but I think so, of course. I mean, no pressure. No pressure. There was definitely a part of me. And I even said this that night as we were celebrating and having our champagne and everything as one does. I said, I don't know if I want to run it again. That was the best day of my life. I kind of want to end it on that. But then I think it was the Boston Marathon. I probably have to do it again. So now that some time has passed, I just have to think of it as its own unique race. Everything is different.
That's true.
Absolutely. True. Even if you run the same race 2 years in a row, whether it's weather or whatever else, totally different experience.
Absolutely.
So you talked about the post-race champagne, but what I want to know is, did you refuel like a pro athlete? Like, here, give me the proper meal.
Protein.
Like that. Yes. Yeah. Or did you have something like indulgent to celebrate at that meal?
I have to wipe my tearing up. what did I have? You know, what's crazy is I didn't think to reserve food like in my room right after the race.
Ooh.
So went back, did a couple of interviews, went back to the room, and I went back and I had 6 friends that were waiting for me at the finish line. So we all went back in and they're all in their unicorn onesies.
Oh my God.
Everyone that I sent out the group text and was like, I just got this unicorn onesie. May I politely suggest that you also order this off Amazon? It will arrive tomorrow.
Politely suggest.
Yeah. So we were all in our unicorn onesies, and my friends ran across the street to the grocery store and grabbed a ton of different foods. They just grabbed a bunch of different stuff. So what I craved out of the big pile of stuff was King's Hawaiian rolls. This is not sponsored. They'd like to sponsor me. I have no idea what nutritional value there is. I just never ate them during training because they taste like sugary sweet rolls.
They're very sweet.
They're not cinnamon rolls. They're just like a dinner roll, but sweet.
Yeah.
And they got me a 12 pack of those. And I just sat on my back and just fed myself the whole pack of Hawaiian rolls.
Just the Hawaiian rolls.
Yeah. Potatoes. Then I also, after that, ate potato salad.
Oh.
Had 4 hard-boiled eggs.
Interesting.
There's the protein.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else did I eat? And then I had these little Lake Champlain peanut butter chocolates. What else? I think that, and then we popped the champagne and then it was all over.
Yeah.
That was like, popped the champagne like 2 hours after. And then I just I did a good job of like slowly sipping all the way through until 11 o'clock at night. So I like paced myself well to the point where I didn't
overdo it.
I was out of it by the end of the night, but I wasn't like out cold I didn't nap.
That's smart.
I rallied.
So that you could continue.
You know what? That is because I fueled really well throughout the race.
Yeah. So then you could celebrate, which is so important.
Wasn't terribly depleted. Yeah.
And I love the Runcation Nation. It's all about finding that restaurant to go to, and that maybe that
I should have planned
gastropub or something like that. But no, I love this. I think that getting together with friends at the hotel and having things like this that you may not go and order off of a restaurant menu, but man, that I'm sure that potato salad hit like the best potato salad ever in that moment.
Yep. I went back and had it again, and it was actually not very good at all. It was just because it was after race. I was like, that was the best. I'm going to go get that again. And I was like, nope. That was just because it was after the race that it
one time thing.
Your body needed it at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I really wanted to be at a restaurant right after, but I didn't make a reservation. I don't know what it's hard to predict what time you'll finish
or how you're going to feel
and how you're going to feel. And also I was really aware that I needed, if I sat down, getting back up with my running leg and walking with my running leg, I knew I needed to switch back into my other leg. And if I was going to take it off, I needed to shower. So that was my big thing. It was like, if I sit in a restaurant, I might need to actually be carried, not necessarily because I'm wiped, but because my leg is going to start to swell. So it can swell in my regular leg very easily without a problem, but it can't swell in my running leg without pain. So I needed to get out of that leg. And if I was going to get out of it, I may as well shower. So once I was showered, then it was straight to the pubs. Yeah, that was awesome.
Good.
I love it.
And champagne was the toast for victory?
Champagne was the toast for victory. Yeah, we had champagne and French fries. It was a big thing with Shalane's Project Eclipse with her girlfriends. And I and many, many others realized the addictive taste of salty with the bubbles is like really good. Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, it was delish. And then later on I had what I love as a post-race meal, but it was later on as like a absorb the champagne meal, which was fish and chips or champagne. Fish and chips and champagne is like the ideal, the like protein, also the fatty fried food with the bubbles. Highly recommend.
There you go.
I love it. Now there is the Runcation Nation tip for explore and indulge.
Yes.
Is there, if any of our listeners are going to be doing the Boston when they're up in that area, are there any specific locations you could recommend to them to give a try? For food or drink.
It's really packed because it's on course, but the Sola's pub in the Lennox Hotel, it's in the hotel. It's right on the course. If you can get in there, their fish and chips is to die for. It's so, so good. I know the owners there too. They're very kind, wonderful people. It's independently owned. Big fan of that. And that's a good one. Of course, if you want to spot some elites, you go to Copley Hotel, of course, in the restaurant there, the Long Bar. I think that one's really good. Where else? If you're looking for diner, like during the week or the next morning for your post-run brunch, when you finally wake up and start moving the next day, Trident Bookstore has the best breakfast food, and they serve it all day. And it's right on Newbury Street, not far from the course. So it's like right near Hereford. So you're going to be close to wherever you're staying because it's close to the course, especially if you're going to go get your medal engraved, which I never did. I totally forgot. No.
Where do you keep your medal?
It's right next to my desk. Along with my bib. The first time I've ever had my name on my bib, which was a big deal too for para-athletes. And I remember picking up our bibs with Shalane, which was a whole thing. She's like, I've never picked up a bib before. Usually our sponsors will go get it for us. So we picked up a bib and it was just fun. Yeah. There's so many fun memories from that entire weekend. But yeah, I would say Solas for fish and chips.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good tip. Thank you.
Champs for champs.
So without giving anything away, can you tell the Runcation Nation what's next for you?
Yeah. So my next race it's the BA half. So that is in November. And it's the first time that it's competitive for para-athletes. So I'm super pumped that they've carried that over to these other races that they host. And they're just such a world-class organization. And they're doing so much for para-athletes and so much for all of us runners by putting on these very well-executed, safe, empowering, wonderful races to run.
Now, for the Runcation Nation, where can they find out more about you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, I have a deep addiction to Instagram that I'm not too sorry about. So I think Instagram, so I'm under my full name, Adrianne Haslet, and that's where I am. I exist on Twitter. I'm on there sometimes, but not too much. And I'm not really on Facebook. It's not really my gig, but Instagram is where I am. Yeah.
Well, when we go to your website, which we'll also link to.
It's such an old website, but it's still there.
It's still there. And there are some great stories there, some great videos, some great stories that that people need to check out.
Thank you.
I love that we go there and we see your big, beautiful smile and positivity that is just contagious and just infectious. What I love are the words that you have there that say, I refuse to be called a victim. A victim is defined by what happened in their lives. I am a survivor defined by how I live my life. I love that. And you've shared so many stories and you've been so generous with your time with us today. We so appreciate that. The insight that you have shared, it's going to help everybody in the Runcation Nation with their various challenges as they train, as they hit maybe those valleys, or they see you and know it's okay to celebrate those peaks like the Boston 2022 for you. And we just can't thank you enough for sharing that with the Runcation Nation so they can accomplish their future goals strong in that mindset of positivity and self-celebration.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy and Dana. Thank you for having me. It feels like we just got started. I feel like I could talk to you guys for so long. So I appreciate you making me feel so welcomed and for bringing me into your Runcation Nation and allowing me to give some tips and tricks that hopefully inspire people to reach their goals. So thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for joining us. You are part of the Runcation Nation now, and we feel the same way. We just got started. So maybe we'll have to have you back on the show at some point in the future.
I'm all yours.
That would be amazing.
And we hope to accomplish, as we like to say, our tagline is, we hope to accomplish, explore, and indulge at a Runcation with you.
I would
really
love that. Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's plan on it. Anytime.
I just love the emotion that she conveyed around that entire day. The passion, the excitement that is still present even now, even months later, and I'm sure that so many in the Runcation Nation can relate to. You have this crowning achievement, and crossing that finish line feels like no other. And you can hearken back to that feeling and use that to propel you to new goals.
Oh, yeah. And when you're talking about a runner with such a unique story and something born out of tragic circumstances and
overcome so much,
not only overcoming it, but excelling at what she chose to focus on.
Yeah.
And that winning mindset that I think that she carried forward from her competitive dancing and the ability to just embrace it. And it's a story of victory on multiple levels. And I'm just incredibly inspired. And I'm so thankful that we had the opportunity to talk with her, that we now have a new member of the Runcation Nation and friend of the show. And I can't wait to get her back.
I 100% agree. I want one of her coffee mugs.
Oh, yeah.
You know how she has links. She's been talking about it on Instagram, and we linked to her website and to her Instagram in the show notes. But she gave that diner recommendation last week. Mm-hmm. And this week, she, in the second half of the interview, she just nailed the explore and indulge the food and beverage portions of our show.
She was speaking my love language.
Amazing.
With fish and chip.
Okay, yeah. And if you read the description from Solace Irish Pub,
what you're going to do for us right now.
You know, crispy lager battered haddock, fries, coleslaw, capered tartar sauce, and fresh lemon.
So that tells me a couple of things. Number one, they're doing their own beer batter. Love that. Oh. Number two, they're making their own house-made tartar sauce. I really love that.
So, but now I was thinking about this menu, okay? And I have a couple of things to say about this menu. There are several things on this menu that are right up your alley. But when I looked at this and thought, oh, if I'm ordering for Dana, what would I order?
Other than the fish and chips?
Other than the fish and chips. And I believe I would order for you the chicken schnitzel.
I do like a good schnitzel. Tell me more.
Bone in and panko breaded, topped with fried egg, served with mashed potatoes and roasted tomato onion gravy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that actually does sound right up my alley too.
You know how we order things and share?
Yes.
So we could get the fish and chips and the chicken schnitzel and it would be
go to town.
A winner.
It does sound like it would be a winner. It really does.
They also have fantastic cocktails that I might order for you.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we can the Sola's experience we can talk about right here.
Now, if I'm having the fish and chips, I may have to get myself a good beer to go with that.
Okay.
That tends to be the pairing for me, but post meal cocktail, what would you get me?
I mean, fine. You can, there's the Magner's Irish Cider. There are several different drafts you might enjoy. Mm-hmm. However, when I'm thinking of, and maybe this is not to go with the meal, maybe this is like the post-meal cocktail, celebratory cocktail. I think I would get for you there are a couple that I might order for you.
And we could order two and then we could share.
We could share. You are correct. There is the Boylston Bramble, Maker's Mark Bourbon, Chambord Lime, splash of ginger ale.
Well, now a Bramble tends to be something that's blackberry and bourbon. That's typically the flavors that you see in that. And that sounds like that would be quite tasty because I am a fan of Makers. I am a fan of Chambord.
Or something called the Fire and Spice, which is Maker's Mark bourbon, apple cinnamon spice, and ginger beer.
Okay, so that's kind of a riff on a Kentucky Mule. Okay.
So I thought those two really spoke to me in terms of maybe post-meal cocktails from this.
This sounds like a great place to check out. Now, we haven't personally been. This is now on our list, thanks to Adrianne. So we are going to still link to it in the show notes. I know you've been cyber stalking their social media.
Well, yeah, but she also gave us, if you wanted to spot elites, you would go to the Long Bar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. Just
mouth's watering a little bit there.
Yeah, because there's a Cajun shrimp and grits.
Well, okay, that's another one of my love languages there. So
smoked Gouda, jalapeno, and okra.
Oh yeah,
right. That's
although I would certainly give it a try. I don't know. That might be the furthest north in the continental United States I've ever had shrimp and grits.
Oh, you're skeptical?
Are you? I might be a little skeptical there.
What about the brunch burger from this place? What about the brunch burger? Maple bacon, fried egg, red onion jam, sharp Vermont cheddar, aioli, spiced hash brown patty.
On the burger?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That actually would probably be the thing I would gravitate
Well, we would have to show up for brunch for that.
Okay.
Yeah. But then there are also beverages here. Mm-hmm.
Do tell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think, well, there's something called a penny dropper. Penny. Like
I gotcha.
Okay.
We don't have to put an explicit tag.
No. Okay. Habanero tequila, mezcal, Aperol, lime, and pineapple.
Oh, now we've had a Chipotle pineapple margarita in the past.
We have.
And that's a wonderful flavor combination where you get a little spice, a little smoke, and that pineapple. The mezcal is going to give it the smokiness. That habanero infused tequila is going to give it the spiciness. That's probably going to be a winner right there.
Okay. There's also something called a Curious George. And it's got Maker's Mark bourbon, Antica vermouth, Giffard banana du Brésil. I'm probably butchering this. And chocolate bitters.
That sounds really interesting. So it's like a chocolate covered banana with bourbon.
It's like bananas Foster kind of flavors, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting.
Because banana, chocolate, I don't.
Not so much for bananas Foster. It's been like a chocolate dip banana.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So my apologies. Yes.
That does not sound bad though.
Yeah, come on.
So this is the Long Bar?
This is the Long Bar.
Okay.
This is the Long Bar.
We're also linking to them in the show notes.
Oh, yeah. Well. And we're linking to one more because she gave us 3.
Mm-hmm.
This one is the day after the race when you get up and moving, she was talking about the Trident Booksellers and Cafe, the Trident Bookstore. And it's breakfast all day, although they have other items as well.
I do like it when restaurants offer breakfast all day.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just hits right at, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 10 p.m. Just depends.
They have all sorts of things on the menu. All sorts. But I was thinking about a couple of things. Two, really. Because sweet and savory brunch, you can never decide, or I'm always torn.
Well, you and I almost always, if we're going out for brunch, one of us will get a sweet dish, one of us will get a savory, and we'll split.
Yeah. So lemon ricotta French toast, tart and creamy, thick sliced challah bread with lemon zest, ricotta cheese filling, comes with warm blueberry sauce.
That's a good combination when you get lemon and blueberry together. That's a really nice combination of flavors. So,
and then there was an egg dish. There was an egg dish that I want to read to you. I have to find it here on the menu. Oh, well, there's the morning Monte Cristo. 2 fried eggs, Canadian bacon, raspberry preserves, cheddar cheese between 2 slices of challah bread French toast.
But do they deep fry the whole thing?
It looks like it.
Oh my gosh.
There's a Mega Benedict. A Mega Benedict, which was the savory option I was looking at for you. Mm-hmm. Homemade short rib gravy. So it's got short rib in it and it's gravy. Over jumbo golden fried tater tots stuffed with gooey cheese, topped with 2 poached eggs and hollandaise sauce.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All about it. All about it.
Without a doubt.
Wait, though. There's a beer on their menu.
Just one beer?
Well, there are several.
I know.
Okay. But there are teas, there are coffees, there's bubble tea on their menu.
I don't know. I like bubble tea. I don't know that I would have that with a meal, but
maybe not. But there is a brewery that I thought was cleverly named Exhibit A, and they make a briefcase porter. The briefcase porter. So the name just caught my eye looking at the menu. It's 5.4% ABV, and it says, this porter satisfies without being heavy. Toasted dark bread and nutty aromas start you off, followed by light roasted coffee, dark chocolate, and a touch of blackberry. The finish is dry to keep you ready for another sip.
Oh, nice.
Not too heavy.
I'm a fan of porters. I think they give you all that great flavor profile of a stout while being lighter in body typically. So you can drink more at a sitting, more sessionable typically. So yeah, that sounds like a winner. And I like blackberry beer. We've had a couple over the years that I've enjoyed. So I suspect that one would be great. But if you are going to be in the Boston area and you get an opportunity to pop in there and try, you know, this, well, you said it had a hint of blackberry, right?
Well, hang on.
If you get a chance to pop in and try the briefcase porter, I would love to know your thoughts on that beer. She's mouthing to me, blackberry? Yes, you said blackberry.
Oh, a touch of blackberry.
Yeah.
Just a touch. Just a touch. But I'm wondering if you could, where that is when you taste it.
True.
I don't know. Anyway. I was focused on the coffee in the description, clearly.
Well, you are. Now, you are partial to coffee beers.
You know this.
Yes.
All right.
So this all sounds great. We've got links to everything in the show notes. Again, Adrianne, thank you so much for coming on the show. Welcome to the Runcation Nation. We are happy to have you, and we can't wait to get you back on the show to talk about what's next for you.
And congratulations on your BAA 10K victory in your division. And we hope that continues in November at the half.
Indeed. So that does it for this week's episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. Yeah. Next week, we are going to be bringing you a training episode with updates on our progress, preparation for fall races, and a flashback to some new places we got to explore and indulge at over the course of this summer.
Yes. In the meantime, if you are back to school shopping, if you are browsing, looking for some holiday gift ideas and something strikes your fancy, please use our Amazon affiliate link at runeatdrink.net/Amazon. It costs you nothing extra, but if you put that at the top of your browser and you shop on Amazon, helps support the show, costs nothing extra.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you all so much for listening.
For joining us on your long run, your commute to work, around the house, or wherever you are. I'm your host, Amy.
And I'm your co-host, Dana.
Stay safe and well, and we will accomplish, explore, and indulge with you really soon.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We're having another great year thanks to your support. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Run, Eat, Drink Podcast. And on Twitter, we're Run, Eat, Drink Pod. You can also give us a call at 941-677-2733 or send us an email at info@runeatdrink.net. Visit our website at runeatdrink.net and click on the subscribe link so you don't miss a minute. Find out how you can support the show at patreon.com/runeatdrinkpodcast. Accomplish, explore, and indulge right along with us. We'll talk to you next time.